This is a case that has some of the craziest twists and turns that I have ever heard. A case that has taken South Africa by storm. A con man of note. This man is such a smooth talker that he could sell ice to an Eskimo. Think Tinder Swindler meets the dating game killer meets Bonnie and Clyde. This is the crazy case of Thabo Bester. Thabo Bester was born on 13 June 1987 to his 16-year-old mom, Macy Maria Mabaso. Now you might wonder where the surname Bester came from.
Thabo's born Thabo Bester. You can go to Para. He's born in Para.
So was Bester, whose surname is Bester?
It's my Oma's fun. Because my mothers get married, yes. And then she said, we mustn't use that fun for that man. We must use my granny's fun.
So he was named Thabo Bester?
Yeah, me also was Macy Bester because my mother wasn't no more friends. And
his conception is something that Thabo's mother doesn't even want to think about. Thabo's mom was walking home from work one day with her cousin on their way to visit her sister when they missed their bus. They asked for a lift from a stranger, and that man ended up sexually violating her, which is how Thabo was conceived. Thabo lived with his mother until he was around 1 year old, when her mother stated that Thabo should come and live with them on the farm that they worked on in Eichenhof, as she was looking after the family's children, and it would provide Thabo with a more stable life as his mother was working and struggled to get childcare for him. So, Thabo stayed with his grandparents, with his mother visiting him whenever she could. But the mother and daughter's relationship took a turn, and she ended up stopping the visits altogether. Maria went on to have 3 other children, 2 boys and a daughter, but Thabo never had a relationship with them. The first indication of Thabo stealing was when he was only 4 years old, when his grandfather found him with a large amount of money in his possession. And when he asked how he got it, Thabo pointed to a house and said he got it from there. His grandfather took him to the house to find out whether that person did in fact give Thabo the money, but she stated that she didn't. No one really knew where that money came from, but Thabo ended up making some sort of impact on that specific family and had spent a great amount of time in their house, even asking them at one point to adopt him. At the age of 5, Thabo was again caught with a jar of coins that he reportedly took from the family that his grandparents worked for. He was still a child, right? So we might not want to read too much into it, but it ties into his life as he got older, where Thabo seemed to always want more and didn't go about the right ways of getting the more that he wanted. He also stated that it was when he was living with his grandparents that he was SA'd by a friend of his grandmother. Thabo only completed schooling up to grade 5 and continued getting into all sorts of mischief as he grew older. In 2002, Thabo's grandmother fell ill and sadly passed away. But by that time, it seemed that Thabo already spent less and less time with his family, and they weren't even able to find him to tell him the news that his grandmother had passed away. It was around that time that he said he moved to a squatter camp and lived with his friends. He said that it was there that he was again sexually violated by a man who said that he would help Thabo, but who ended up locking him up in a house and repeatedly sexually violating him. At the age of 17, Thabo was arrested for the first time for theft, and his mother had to end up getting him from jail. In 2005, Thabo welcomed his first child, a daughter, but that is sadly not where Thabo would stop his crimes. His crimes only got worse and worse from there on out. Pretty soon after, in his early 20s, he started up a Facebook scam where he would pose as a modeling scout, reaching out to aspiring models, offering to meet up with them and asking them to pay an interview's fee before they met. He would end up meeting up with them in fancy hotels, where he would end up robbing them, and sometimes he would even sexually assault the woman, saying that he was driven by lust, which is how he got the name the Facebook rapist. In 2009, Thabo was found guilty on a fraud charge after he posed as a media executive that would recruit models for a bogus show. He was sentenced to serve 6 months in prison or pay a 1,500 rand fine. He stated that he did not have the funds available, so he would end up serving his time. During this imprisonment, he said that he was treated very badly, being abused by the prison guards, and said that he was intimately violated when a gang of inmates inserted a foreign object into his rectum. A report of the alleged abuse was presented in a court, but in the report no mention was made of the R incident. Thabo was released after serving his 6 months, but again went back to his criminal ways. During 2010, he started running a promotions and events agency. But not everything was above board, as is Thabo's way. It was also in this year that he fathered his second daughter with a different woman. In 2010, he managed to con 2 private airline charter companies into giving him some free flight packages worth more than 500,000 rand in total. One of these flights were chartered from Lanseria to Cape Town, where he produced a fake banking transfer slip to the amount of 275,000. When the money never appeared, the return trip from Cape Town back to Lanseria was cancelled and a charge was laid. The second flight was to Durban, where the accommodation in the package was included. Again, he provided fake proof of payment and the return flight was cancelled and charges were laid. He also left the people that he flew there with the bill at the accommodation that they were staying at. Through all this, he continued setting up fake meetings with aspiring models, asking them to pay him for interviews, setting up fake photo shoots, and robbing them of all their valuables. By late 2010 into 2011, the cops were hot on Thabo's tail. But he wasn't that easy to track down, as he went by a suspected 13 different aliases, which included Thomas Bester, Tom Bester, Thabo Tom Bester, Tom Kelly, Thomas Kelly Bester, TK, Thomas Kelly Young, Thomas Magagula, Thabo Magagula, Kelly Johnston, Rufus Magopo, and Tom Rufus Reddy. During this time, Thabo, aka whatever he was going by at that time, rented 2 buses and hired 2 different photographic crews for a supposed photo shoot with models. They stopped somewhere for lunch and he told them to leave their equipment in the buses and to go have lunch that he would pay for, telling them that he would be responsible for whatever they had left behind. And while they were out having lunch, Thabo managed to steal all the equipment worth hundreds of thousands, and even left them with the lunch bill. Rude. But Thabo was very active on all his Facebook profiles, and on one of these, Thomas Kelly Bester, he stated that he was living between Cape Town, California, and France. He also stated that he was working as an executive producer at SABC3. And in March of 2011, he was charged with fraud and given a 2-year sentence that was suspended for 5 years. Also in that same year, he welcomed his 3rd daughter, again with a different woman. In January 2011, Thabo met Nomfundo Tuhulu at a BMW dealership in Sandton, Johannesburg, where she sold him a new vehicle. Thabo showed interest in her, and soon they were in a long-distance relationship, with Nomfundo staying in Joburg and Thabo living in Cape Town. But having a girlfriend didn't stop Thabo from wanting other women. In August of 2011, he lured an aspiring model to a fake photo shoot with the intention of robbing her. They checked into the accommodation, where she took a shower. With the intent of robbing her, he went to a nearby mall to buy a kitchen knife and duct tape. When he returned, he was pointing the knife at her, and they started struggling when he grabbed her around her neck. They were struggling for the knife, and they were both stabbed in the process, which in my opinion, he deserved so much more. Thabo, however, got the upper hand and even stabbed this poor lady in her face and on her head. He tied her up with duct tape and set off to taking all her valuables and leaving her bleeding. But then he says he saw her legs, saying that he couldn't resist her anymore, so he ended up sexually violating her and then fled to another hotel, leaving her bleeding. Also in August, he was joined by his girlfriend Nomfundo on a trip to Durban, where he was introduced to another woman by her. He really seemed to have an interest in this other woman and booked a flight home for Nomfundo, telling her that he is going to stay on a little bit longer. So he ended up spending some extra time with this girl that his girlfriend introduced him to, and they ended up going shopping and having dinner together, and things between the two escalated when they ended up kissing, and they slept together that same night. The next morning, he woke up after getting his fills and thrills, and decided, let me hold her at knife point. He ended up sexually violating her and robbing her of her valuables. On the 21st of September 2011, Nomfundo and Thabo were staying at a bed and breakfast in Sunset Beach in Cape Town when they got into a heated argument. Thabo ended up stabbing Nomfundo in the chest. He then went down to reception and told them not to go to their room, as his girlfriend was very tired and sleeping. Not only did he leave her to die in that room, he also robbed her of her valuables. In October 2011, he was captured and charged with the rape and robbery of the two other women at two different lodges in August. He had not yet been charged with Nomfundo's death. That would only come later. Thabo ended up pleading guilty to both charges of rape as well as 2 charges of armed and aggravated robbery. He burst into tears in the Durban Magistrates Court when he explained the circumstances which he said led to him committing these crimes. Speaking in mitigation of his sentence, he told the court that he had been SA'd by his grandmother's friend when he was young. Sexually violated several times by a man who promised to look after him, and he was gang-orged in prison. He also said that he had never seen his parents and that he lived under excruciating conditions with his alcoholic grandmother and grandfather on a farm in Gauteng. He stated, "This is not truly who I am. I resorted to crime to support myself. It is either you die or you make a plan." He also added, "I know I have done terrible things. This is not truly who I am. I want the opportunity to put things right." The judge, however, said she found no compelling circumstances to give Bester a lesser sentence, saying the interest of society outweighed his personal circumstances. She also said that the evidence showed that he had planned his crimes well, and she questioned whether he was actually remorseful, stating, "You may regret your conduct, but that does not make you remorseful. You have not explained what motivated you to commit these crimes." Bester's acts had caused huge harm to his victims, with one of his victims having to be hospitalized for 5 days, and she had 13 stitches to her head, because of Bester. This magistrate sentenced him to 15 years imprisonment for each of the 2 counts of R, totaling 30 years for the 2 counts. He was also sentenced to another 15 years with 5 years suspended for each of the 2 counts of armed robbery with aggravating circumstances. So his total sentence came down to 50 years. He was also said to be taken to Gauteng, where he faced more charges of robbery, fraud, and the Pietermaritzburg court for the murder of Nomfundo Tsuhulo. During his murder trial for Nomfundo, he stated that he did not intend to kill her and that it had been an accident. During cross-examination, Bester was asked why he did not hand himself over. He said that he wanted to surrender to police, but became scared when he saw the story about his crimes in newspapers, and he ran. He said he knew he was sought after across the country for crimes including murder, and feared that people would not believe him when he said that he accidentally stabbed Nomfundo. He was described as a danger to society, saying that what he had done had caused trauma to his victims, which would stay with them for the rest of their lives. Again, Thabo was given no leniency for Nomfundo's murder, and he was given life imprisonment for the murder plus another 25 years for aggravated armed robbery, which brought the total of all his sentences to life plus 75 years. He was set to serve his sentence at Drakenstein prison in Paarl. While there, it is said that he dealt with severe depression, insomnia, and he started seeing a psychologist. While there, he was also interviewed by a forensic psychologist. I'll let you be the judge of who you think Thabo Bester really is.
Because I felt that that's not me. And I wanted to do right where I did wrong. And I wanted to take responsibility, if that's the word. And I wanted to give the people that got hurt in the process also that thing could see, okay, he's in jail and we've got justice. If that's what they want.
Were you did it cross your mind, or were you worried that, you know, if you didn't hand yourself or didn't bring yourself to Boysen's attention because you were in custody, as you said, were you fearful that something like this might happen again?
Not really. I think all these incidents happened. Yes, they happened 3 times differently, but I feel also that I'm not somebody that you should worry about leaving a woman in one room with me that I would rape. Because the murder, I feel that it was just a pure, we fight over a knife, somebody gets stabbed in the process, and it was not, if I wanted to stab her, I could have killed her in Durban, I could have killed her the first night we got to Cape Town. So that was not my intentions at all. If I wanted to kill her, I could have got her into Mthatha, where there's much less people, and got her into a bush BNB there, killed her there. So my intentions was never to kill anyone. My intentions were, with her, was straightforward. I liked her, and things got twisted whenever they got twisted, and we had a fight. The knife got out of hand. She got stabbed. I got stabbed in the process. I tried to stop it, and there's no one in this world great cases, and there's a knife involved, and I'm wanted by cops. If I went to the cops and said we had a fight, she got stabbed in the process, no one was going to believe me. So that's the first thing, because I thought of that. That was the first thing to do, obviously, wake up the owners of the B&B and let them come, and then call the cops and get an ambulance there. But I thought if I do that, it's like me saying, okay, I did the murder. You understand?
Because for me, what's kind of striking is that, I mean, you have the 2 rapes, what do you say, a week or 2 apart. And the murder was how long after that? Also about what?
A week apart.
It's as if all of a sudden something snapped and the whole ball game has changed, where it was purely in the past, you know, financial conning, getting money, fraud, etc. It's as if it had gone on to the next level. And
one thing I also feel like, I read the papers and I feel like they're talking about somebody else, not me. I look at these charges and I don't think it's me. I really don't think it's me. That's why I pleaded guilty. And to the murder case, I can't plead guilty to murdering her because I did not intentionally want to kill her. but I can plead guilty on the fact of bringing a knife into her presence. That I can plead guilty. And how she got stabbed, I don't know, but I do. If I have to plead guilty in any regard there, I will plead guilty that I did bring the knife into the room and we had a fight and she got stabbed. To show that, how can I say it? To show that I don't feel that I was right.
That you're responsible for a death, but not as a result of an intentional thing that you started out.
I'm responsible for her death, yes, that's 100% correct. I'm not responsible for killing her. I did not kill her. If I'm sure if I wanted to kill her, I could have. I'm not a stupid person. I could have done it in a way that the cops wouldn't even know it was me. They read it in a way that I did not know I was doing. I left the premises because if I knew I was doing, covered myself up by using certain methods so that my fingerprints were not there, and etc. So it only became known to me that I did rape. So that's the way I feel about the three incidents.
Thabo was later moved to Mangaung prison, which is run by a private security company called G4S. On the 3rd of May 2022, the Department of Correctional Services reported that the convicted, Thabo Bester, had been found dead in his cell at the Mangaung private prison in Bloemfontein. It is said that a mattress had been set alight in the cell, in which Bester had been isolated. A body was found beneath, burned beyond recognition. An anonymous source suggested that Bester had been vocal about his life being in danger days before the fire started. Thabo complained to the prison management that there was a hit on him after he failed to pay a protection fee to the members of the 26 gang. Instead, he was dragged to solitary confinement, kicking and screaming last week Friday against his will. An investigation into the matter was initiated as it is important to establish the circumstances leading to the death of an inmate and, of course, the cause of the fire. But at that point, they reported that Thabo had taken his own life. On the 4th of May, a post-mortem was conducted on the body found in the cell, revealing that this person was dead before the fire broke out, and that he had died from blunt force trauma to the head, and also no smoke was found in the lungs. On the 5th of May 2022, JICS started investigating the unnatural death of Thabo Bester. On the 6th of May 2022, Nandipha Magudumana collected the body from a Free State morgue and transported it to a Soweto mortuary, stating that she is the customary wife of Thabo Bester and that she would like to start the burial rites. This is also when the South African Police Services began investigating a murder after receiving the autopsy report. But Nandipha wasn't the only person wanting to claim Thabo's body. Thabo's mom found out that he had passed through the news and also came to claim her son's body. But she found out that it was already released.
Yokuthi uNandipha ushade noThabo angiyazi uNandipha bengiqala ukumbona. uNandipha uvela uThabo makasakashonini. Kuthiwa uNandipha umfazi kaThabo futhi unabantwana abayithuna. Mina ngithi why all the time bengingavelanga angikhulumi kabi. And then bese uThabo ke uNandipha bese ngithi kuyena angifonele. Ngithi phoyisa limtrace limfoni angifonele. Athi kimi mama ngizoza lapha ngizokutshela le ndaba qala. Uze kayi1 wafika wangitshela ukuthi bona noThabo bashada. Abaqeda ukushada baba nabantwana abayi2. Yena labantwana laba balayika. Okay.
Now you're probably asking yourself, who is Nandipha Magudumana? As we haven't discussed anything about Thabo having a wife. So let's go back and chat more about Nandipha. Nandipha Magudumana was born in 1989 in Bizana, a small town in Eastern Cape, but she was raised in Port Edward, KwaZulu-Natal. Since the age of 6, she told her father that she wanted to become a doctor. So she worked hard at achieving her goals, and at the age of 16, she already started working at a pharmacy, wanting to improve her knowledge in the medical field. She went on to study at the Witwatersrand University, and she holds a Bachelor of Health Sciences degree in Biomedical Sciences, as well as a Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. Between 2014 and 2015, she worked at Edenvale Hospital and later landed a job at the Far East Rand Hospital. In 2017, she founded Optimum Medical Aesthetic Solutions, an aesthetic and skincare clinic in Morningside, Sandton, Johannesburg. This clinic offers non-surgical treatments such as Botox, hairline restoration, and chemical peels. Nandipha Magudumana's occupation was expanding, and she gained several celebrity clients, including Miss Universe Zozibini Tunzi. Aside from her professional life, her passions include traveling, photography, health and fitness, reading, fashion, and apart from her day-to-day job, she also became a social media influencer. In 2018, she was featured on the Mail and Guardian's 200 Young South Africans list and was among the top 20 most influential young South Africans. She was also listed on the SADC Top 100 Young Leaders. Nandipha married a fellow doctor, a pediatrician, in 2013, and together they have 2 daughters. And according to Home Affairs, to this day, the 2 are still married. So how on earth, with all of this that this woman has, a blooming career, a husband, 2 daughters, how did she end up with someone to the likes of Thabo Bester? It is allegedly said that Nandipha and Thabo Bester have known each other since 2006, when the doctor was still studying. They lost contact in 2011, after which the physician married and had children, while Bester was imprisoned for life. She allegedly reached out to him during a later stage and started visiting him in prison around 2017. Allegedly, they then rekindled their relationship, which resulted in Nandipha putting all her accomplishments at risk for this man. He was obviously a fabulous influence on Nandipha, as in May 2021, she was suspended from practicing as a doctor by the South African Health Professionals Council for allegedly failing to pay her annual registration fees. Her practice, however, kept running for a while longer, and whether she still continued practicing is unknown, but I'm sure that it will be investigated. Now let's go back to Thabo's case. On the 13th of May 2022, the South African Police Services confiscated the body from Magudumana's custody due to the fact that the investigation into Thabo's death was still ongoing. And on the 19th, Magudumana approached the Pretoria High Court asking for the body to be returned to her. In a court affidavit, she said that she was Bester's customary law wife and provided an affidavit from her father as proof of lobola negotiations. Also in this affidavit, she said that he had proposed to her in February of 2020. She also provided proof of payments that she had made into his prison account and proof of payment made towards a Damlin course that he was enrolled in, as well as proof that she regularly visited him in prison. But Nandipha was, as I previously stated, according to Home Affairs records, already in a civil law marriage at the time, and South African law does not allow for people to enter into customary law marriages if they are already in a civil law marriage. Still, she did not get the body back, as police officials again stated that they were busy investigating the case due to the suspicious circumstances. In June of 2022, a woman was shopping at a Woolworths store in Sandton when she saw Nandipha. She decided to take a picture to show to her friend who was a big fan of hers. But what she didn't know is that she would capture something even more newsworthy. In the picture, it shows a man that looks extremely like the supposedly dead inmate, Thabo Bester. Almost 2 months after the prison cell fire in which Bester was thought to have died. But she did not know who Thabo Bester was. She only thought that it was strange that Nandipha was shopping with someone who wasn't her husband. On the 1st of July 2022, DNA analysis is conducted on the body by the South African Police Services, comparing the body found in the cell to Bester's mother. The DNA did not match, and a sample of Thabo Bester's actual DNA was not found in the South African Police Services DNA database. On the 10th of August 2022, the South African Police Services provided copies of the autopsy report and the DNA test results to JICS. JICS finalized its preliminary report, recording that Bester did not die in his cell. The body's face and hands were particularly badly burned, while the whole body was severely charred. A strong smell of paraffin suggested that an accelerant was used in the fire. It was also found that the height of the body was 1.45 meters. In a police mugshot, Bester stands taller at over 1.7 meters. Yes, Thabo Bester crafted a careful and elaborate plan to escape from prison and thought that he would never get caught. On the 2nd of May 2022, a private vehicle was driven into the Mangaung prison facility without a gate pass. When the bakkie pulled up, it had a wooden kist on the back and a senior official demanded that it be checked. But commotion broke out in another part of the prison, and he left to attend to the fracas. The 1.3 meter long piece of furniture was offloaded around 5 p.m. and it was then carried to the prison's woodwork shop under the pretense that it was to be repaired. This piece of furniture was thought to have carried the body that would replace Thabo in his cell. Thabo had allegedly complained about being threatened, and on the same day he was moved to an isolation cell, something that usually takes weeks to finalize. He was also conveniently moved into a corner cell that was hardly ever used due to the angle of the CCTV cameras that didn't capture the ongoings in the cell properly. A prison official that was not supposed to be on duty that night showed up for work anyway. Pictures showed him a few weeks earlier purchasing a new car, a Volkswagen T-Roc, to the value of around 600,000, when he only earned around 15,000 to 18,000 per month. On the CCTV cameras, a prison official is seen with someone in a wheelchair entering Thabo's cell. Next, smoke is seen and 2 prison officials are seen hurriedly exiting through an emergency exit conveniently situated close to the cell that Thabo was kept in. And they escaped into a courtyard that led into the street. It also turns out that crucial footage of that night was missing. Surprise, surprise. On the 15th of March 2023, Ground Up published, "Did the Facebook rapist die in his cell, or did he escape from prison?" And the next day, they published a photograph that was sent to them. The photo of Nandipha and the supposed Thabo Bester shopping in Woolworths in Sandton of June 2022. The story just gets more interesting and crazy from here, guys. I'm telling you, you can't make this shit up, even if you tried. From behind bars, Thabo was also running a multi-million rand scam business, where he posed as the chairman of that company, But he didn't call himself Thabo. Instead, he called himself Tom Motsepe and stated that he was related to South African businessman Patrice Motsepe. The company in question was called 21st Century Media, a scam event and production company which was made to look like a subsidiary of the 21st Century Fox Group. A glitzy, glamorous launch event of the company was held on the 13th of June 2018 at the Hilton Hotel in Sandton, and the event was attended by members of Johannesburg's high society, including celebrities Amanda DuPont and Yvonne Chaka Chaka, with a video of so-called Tom Motsepe appearing in a video call since he couldn't be there as he was in New York, aka Mangaung prison, and the whole crowd singing happy birthday. Conveniently, Tom Motsepe shared the same birthday as convicted Thabo Bester.
Happy birthday, dear Tom. Happy birthday. We hope you're not crying.
21st Century Media became the subject of a social media storm in 2018 for promoting a Women in Media conference with Hollywood A-listers as guest speakers, which turned out to be a scam. Tickets were sold for 1,250 Rand each, and Hollywood A-listers Halle Berry and Taraji P. Henson were advertised as guest speakers. But when Berry and Henson publicly distanced themselves from the event, a media outcry followed, and the event was cancelled. The Women in Media saga was the beginning of the end for 21st Century Media. A Twitter account for Tom Motsepe contains photos of Bester's face edited onto other people's bodies. In one picture, his face is edited onto American actor Michael B. Jordan's body. Bester had invented an extensive backstory for Tom Motsepe. A board of directors document for another of his companies, 21st Century Group, includes a profile that describes Tom as a South African investment strategist magnate, a progressive and innovative businessman, and a thought leader with sound knowledge of how to operate a successful global brand. Tom allegedly held a bachelor's degree in business administration and management from the University of Cape Town and a bachelor's degree in investment and securities from Harvard University. Not only faking degrees, but faking them sommer from Harvard, hey? Now you might be asking yourself, how the heck does someone run a lucrative business while in prison? According to the Correctional Services Act, sentenced offenders are not allowed to work or conduct business on their own account. But illicit businesses run from prison are not uncommon in South Africa. The illicit trade of cell phones and drugs, often aided by prison officials, is a very well-known problem. Inmates at Mangaung Correctional Centre said that it would have been relatively easy for Bester to obtain a cell phone and that laptops were allowed in the prison for inmates who were studying. And Bester was allegedly studying through Dublin, right? But for Bester to run this type of business, having full internet access, almost full-time access to a phone and laptop, as well as wearing civvies, and to escape from prison later, he would have had to have the support of officials working at the prison. Inmates of the prison also later came out, saying that Thabo had his own bedding, he didn't sleep on any prison sheets, hardly ate prison food, and was allowed to wear civvies on several occasions. Apparently, he sent some of the prison officials e-wallets, which is a cash-sending service, and also bought them lavish gifts and lunch. Here's a video of Tom living his best life in prison. Arum is a scam construction company ran by Nandipha and Thabo Bester. They convinced several people to pay millions of rands for construction projects, but never delivered the goods. Clients stated that soon after signing on and paying their deposits, they started to realize that something was wrong. Bester was introduced to them most often by Nandipha herself and went by the name of TK Nkwana. He signed legal documents using a driver's license and ID document with an ID number that does not exist on Home Affairs records. One person also stated having met TK in July of 2022. They were offered payment to fly to Cape Town and to take pictures posing in houses supposedly being renovated by Arum Properties, but they realized soon that something was wrong and declined. TK used social media accounts linked to Magudumana, including Arum Properties and iMedia, to approach models or people with large social media followings. In August 2022, Arum Properties hosted a Women in Property brunch at Magudumana's rented mansion in Hyde Park, which she and Thabo rented for 40,000 rand per month, paid in advance for a year. The event was attended by several Johannesburg businesswomen involved in the property sector. Attendees were offered services from Arum Properties, which quoted up to 3 million below other companies in the industry for the construction of luxury homes. But clients who signed with them said that they didn't get their money's worth. The admin was sluggish, line items were added to invoices without being discussed, and there were endless delays. Construction was subcontracted and little work was actually done. The so-called TK was also very difficult to work with and hot-headed, especially when clients asked for clarity on budgets and schedules. He was also difficult to get hold of because he kept using different cell phone numbers. Ground Up has seen contracts signed between Arum Properties and clients. The contracts mention Arum Properties Pty Limited, but this company does not exist on the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission database. Arum Holdings Pty Limited does however exist, and Magudumana is the sole director. In March of 2023, 3 men, a private investigator, debt collector, and a representative for a car dealership, sat down at a table where Magudumana was having lunch with their colleague to speak to her about failing to make payments on a 1.35 million Mercedes-Benz that she bought in 2022. But it was about way more than just that. Shortly after purchasing the vehicle, Nandipha allegedly drove the luxurious Mercedes-Benz to Zimbabwe through the Beitbridge border post. On the Zimbabwean side, she allegedly placed fake Zimbabwean number plates on the Mercedes and abandoned it before returning to South Africa across the border on foot. Zimbabwean authorities impounded the vehicle after it was abandoned. It is believed that this was an attempt by Magudumana and Thabo Bester to have a getaway vehicle in Zimbabwe if they needed to escape from South Africa.
Yeah, Devin just wants his money. He wants the 700, which is fair, ma'am. You know, he helped you, he trusted you, and you went back on your word. You haven't paid him in full. So you just need to pay him the outstanding 700,000 and he'll leave it. Otherwise, he wants to go to the extent of putting everything over social media. You don't want that kind of thing. You know what I mean? You don't want bad exposure for yourself or your business. Let's just sort it out amicably. Well, pay the man and let's move on. Can we come to an agreement?
Well, we need to come to an agreement.
Yeah, exactly. Not what we want to.
I'll speak to the person Devin had an agreement with, and then I will let you know.
Who is that person?
It's the person he had an agreement with.
After the photo of Thabo and Nandipha in Woolworths was circulated and a quarrel broke out between them and their landlord due to defaults on their rent, they abandoned their rented home on Tuesday 21 March 2023. According to the security guard, several trucks had arrived to move the possessions. The guard said that Magudumana had been evicted due to non-payment of rent. representatives of the landlord showed up, saying that some of the things being removed from the building belonged to the property company. It is also said that the property next door was being renovated to become Magudumana's new wellness clinic. It also now stands deserted and half-finished. It is said that the couple left in such a rush that a watch of 1.5 million rand was left on a nightstand in the bedroom. Nandipha's social media accounts also soon went silent, with some even being deactivated. Finally, on 25 March 2023, the Department of Correctional Services confirmed to the public that Bester escaped from prison. We are talking more than 10 months after the charred body was found in his cell.
When did you find him?
We find him, we sent to prison for life.
No, but now he's escaped.
We find Bester,
yeah.
Prison for life and 75 years.
Yeah, where's he now?
Bester was jumped out of correctional service,
yeah.
And we were chasing Bester for the second time,
yeah.
as the police. But we will find Bester.
Yeah.
We're getting good clues. I heard
you got some clues.
We are getting good one. I heard people yesterday trying to ridicule police by rating the household. Sometimes people, they don't understand investigation. You don't know things. Clues that we get there. There are issues. There are serious allegations.
It's just that you got there only after a year after he has left.
We might find
a clue of where he is.
Not necessarily.
Is it true that he may be in Tanzania?
Not necessarily where he is.
Yeah.
Things that he might have done there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you confirm that you got a lead that he may be in Tanzania?
Not me. Maybe the Home Affairs on that one and AXA, they can confirm on that one. What I know, yeah. I'm trying to find Bester as a South African Police Service.
As more evidence on the case was released, it came out that Nandipha allegedly claimed/stole 3 bodies from mortuaries in the Free State in a bid to help Bester escape from prison. It's claimed that the bodies were obtained by Magudumana over a few weeks before Bester escaped from the Mangaung Correctional Centre. She claimed one of the bodies after saying that it was her father. The body was then found dumped in a river a week later with the mortuary's identification tag still attached to the toe. Apparently, this body was claimed for a failed attempt at his escape, and dumped once they realized that he wouldn't be able to make his escape at that point. The second body she claimed as the brother of a friend. Dr. Nandipha then proceeded to have fake buried 2 of the 3 bodies that she claimed from the mortuary. And she arranged for maize meal and boerewors to be placed in the empty coffins to be buried. On 7 April 2023, Thabo Bester and Nandipha Magudumana were caught in Arusha, Tanzania, alongside a Mozambican national, 10 kilometers away from the Kenyan border. It was also stated that Nandipha initially told Tanzanian authorities that she was being held against her will by Thabo Bester. Now, it has you wondering whether this is true or not, given the fact of the life that she gave up for him, right? And if so, how did this happen? Does he have some kind of hold over her? Blackmail? Maybe something else? But I'm sure we'll find out more about this as the case unfolds.
It was a combination of Interpol, crime intelligence, and everybody directed here. But the people were spotted. It's not very much correct that they were arrested because of entered the country illegal. It was found when they've been arrested that they're in the country illegal. They were found, they were spotted by the people that are working with South Africa, and they were followed as they leave the hotel in this black SUV, and they were heading for the border of the other country. They were leaving the Tanzania. Actually, were leaving Dar es Salaam, and they were followed until they were found in Arusha. It was also discovered there that they have several passports with different names, But as it has been said in the stadium, in the statement, it has been confirmed by these authorities. National Commissioner of the South African of the Tanzanian Police, the Interpol has spoken to the Minister of Justice in the area, and our sources and structures here have confirmed that is them. The team that will be dispatched there tomorrow will help us to bring them back or bring him back. He's arrested, as it said, with the lady that has been confirmed to be a good doctor, and the Mozambican national that has been assisting them. How they moved around, it should not be explained because it's illegal how they have moved. What we know is that at the present moment they're having several passports each, and not a single one that has been stamped as they were crossing. But we are working hard that the way we bring them back should be the safest way. If it needs to be that we send some air machine, some aeroplane to fetch them, we'll be doing that so that we make sure that they don't slip off coming down with them back here.
On the 11th of April, the father of Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, Zolile Cornelius Sekeleni, and a former prison warden, Senoge Matswara, who helped Thabo Bester escape from the Mangaung Correctional Centre, had been arrested. They also appeared in court on the same day and was charged with aiding and abetting a criminal to escape, as well as with helping Nandipha get the bodies from the mortuary. On 13 April 2023, Thabo Bester and Nandipha Magudumana were brought back to South Africa from Tanzania.
Well, of course, we are coming live here at Hosimampuru, the second correctional service facilities. We expect the convoy to arrive here. Thabo Bester will be dropped off here. As you are aware that because he was a prisoner at a prison in Bloemfontein, they are going to bring him here at the correctional service facilities. Let me just recap on what transpired. We know that they went to Tanzania. They were arrested in Arusha, 10 kilometers away from the border between Tanzania and Kenya. And then, of course, we know that the South African delegation went to Tanzania to negotiate with the officials that side in terms of ensuring that they are brought here in South Africa. It was an easy process in a sense that it didn't take long for them to be brought to South Africa. As you are aware, Griselda saying that they touched down few minutes ago in Lanseria Airport. We know that it is a deportation because they were declared undesirable persons, and therefore they were told to leave Tanzania within 24 hours, and therefore the Department of International Relations, the office there in Tanzania, then dispatched an official to Arusha to go and present documents and identification. We are told that there was a technicality with Thabo Bester. In terms of documents, he doesn't appear in Home Affairs documents, but he was declared a South African, and from there they were flown to Kilimanjaro. From Kilimanjaro, the plane was waiting for them there, and then they were brought to South Africa. The plane landed at Kilimanjaro, and as we speak, as you can hear the noise, it is a helicopter, the police helicopter, hovering above the prison, and they are not far from here. We expect them to arrive here any minute. That is the convoy. We are told that in relation to Dr. Nandipha, she is going to be taken to Bloemfontein because she must appear in court. You know that there's a warrant of arrest, and therefore As we speak, she has been arrested and she has to appear in court, and therefore it's only then perhaps we will know what will be the process after that. But in terms of Thabo Bester, he is not going to Bloemfontein today, and I think because of the challenges, you would recall that he was able to escape at that facility. There was no way they would have taken him to that facility again.
On that same day, Nandipha appeared in court along with another arrestee. Nandipha was charged with murder, aiding and abetting a criminal, and violation of dead bodies. The man who appeared in court with her was Tebogo Lefolo, an employee of the company contracted by G4S to install and maintain the CCTV footage at Mangaung. He was also charged with aiding and abetting a criminal to escape, defeating the ends of justice, and violation of a body. Nandipha's next court appearance will be on 17 April 2023. After photos of the arrested pair were released, people were questioning whether it was in fact Thabo Bester that they had arrested, as he looked so much different from his previous arrest photos. I think something we need to take into account is that Nandipha was an esthetician doctor, armed with Botox, fillers, etc., and we all know how much that can change your face. But it was confirmed that his identity was proven through hospital birth records, fingerprints, and criminal records. I think instead of calling him the Facebook rapist, we should start calling him the man of many faces. On the 14th of April, Thabo made his first appearance in the Bloemfontein court, wearing a smug little smile.
Convicted killer and rapist Thabo Bester made a much-anticipated appearance in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court, where he appeared on charges including escape, defeating the ends of justice, fraud and violation of a corpse. Bester made an appearance here for the first time since his brazen escape from the Mangaung maximum security prison in May last year. It's also his first appearance since he was deported back to South Africa alongside his accomplice Dr. Nandipha Magudumana from Tanzania in a chartered jet in the early hours of yesterday morning. What was expected to be a brief appearance was elongated by concerns and a request from Bester as he sat in the dock. First, he wanted to address the court himself and not through his appointed attorney. But once that request was turned down, he then told his attorney how he hadn't had a meal for at least 24 hours since his deportation out of fear of the food from the Correctional Services facility. Bester's also raised concerns on documents that his lawyers are calling repatriation documents, in that he's questioned the ID number that is listed on his temporary identity document. He's requested to see those documents himself. However, State Advocate Sello Matloko has dismissed these concerns, saying the court does not have the powers to address issues around meals from correctional services as well as deportation documents. He's questioned why Bester did not raise the issues around his identity number with Home Affairs or the documents with the Tanzanian authorities. The convicted killer and rapist will not join his co-accused in the dock on Monday the 17th of April as they appear for a possible bail application. We heard from the state today that there is no need for him to make that appearance because he's already a convicted and incarcerated inmate. Bester's matter has been postponed for further police investigation to the 16th of May. He will be remanded in custody.
Let's start here. The prosecutor basically asking that Dr. Nandipha Magudumana remove her mask and hoodie so that the court can confirm it is indeed her inside the dock. You recall, she'd been consistently since she arrived in South Africa wearing that hoodie as well as the mask from the time that she'd got off that aeroplane after being deported from Tanzania to South Africa. So her father, Cornelius Sekeleni, you now know, has been granted bail of 10,000 rand in a surprise move, Bongiwe. The NPA withdrew the murder charge against Sekeleni. The NPA now saying that it received new evidence that convinced it to drop that murder charge against him. He was the only accused out of the 4 that were in the dock today that were granted bail. So last week, you'd recall, in Sekeleni's first appearance, the court charged him and that former G4S employee, Sinohe Matware, with murder regarding the charred body that was found in Bester's cell. So Sekeleni now facing charges of defeating the ends of justice, aiding and abetting a prisoner to escape, and fraud. The murder charge now is completely gone. He's back in court on May the 16th, Bongiwe, the same day as the convicted Facebook rapist and murderer Thabo Bester. He's back in court as well on the 16th of May. The other accused remain behind bars. Their bail applications will be heard on the 3rd and the 4th of May in the court right here behind me. What we also heard, Bongiwe, is that accused number 3, Teboho Lipolo, you'd recall he's the CCTV engineer. He did not have legal counsel and basically asked the court to provide that for him. We also heard that he has a previous conviction of a stock theft. So we understand that while those applications, bail applications, will be taking place on the 3rd and the 4th of May, the state will be opposing those bail applications.
So that is everything on this case so far. As I said, what a friggin' roller coaster, right? I cannot wait to see how this case unfolds. I will make sure to keep you updated as more information comes out. Please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything. As always, thank you so much for taking the time and watching this video. I would appreciate it so much if you left a like and subscribe if you aren't already. It's a free way that you can help me out. Until next time, stay safe out there, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Bye.